Vice Mayor Parent.
Here.
Commissioner Udalovis.
Here.
Commissioner Cooper.
Here.
We'll have the invocation delivered by Reverend Charles Wilkins, followed by the salute to the flag. Is the Reverend here? Do we have another Reverend here? Anyone else? No? Okay. We'll all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Thank you. Huh? I think so. Yeah. This meeting is being conducted in accordance with the Open Public Meeting Act of 1975, was advertised, posted, and made available to the public as required by law. The municipal clerk is directed to include a statement in the minutes of this meeting. Madam Clerk, are there any review changes to the agenda?
Yes, Mayor, there's a few. We have an addition of Bowman and Company budget presentation tonight, also PAL proclamation and award ceremony, an amendment to the salary ordinance to add a new title and range of compensation, an ordinance amending the insurance requirements for special events with alcohol on public lands, and also the addition of a resolution authorizing an MOU with Inspira for 911 services.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Prior to starting our meeting, we're going to go right into the PAL proclamation. Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Okay. So, Commissioner? Commissioner Cooper? All right. I like how you just brushed that off on you.
Gotcha. He's going to talk about it first. Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good evening.
All right. Good to see all your bright, beautiful faces out here this evening. All right. So tonight we're going to talk about and get things started with honoring PAL. What is PAL for some of you who don't know? PAL is the Police Athletic League. And PAL does a tremendous job in the community and in all sports and changing the lives of some of the young men and women in the city. So I felt the need to really do something special for them. They need to be acknowledged for what they do. And as the world is turning, there are many neighborhoods and many communities that don't care about each other. And they have no one volunteering. But PAL, here in Millville, our PAL, they care. And I wanted everyone to know that April, we declare PAL is PAL Month in Millville. So what do we do with that? I want you to take a moment and think about volunteering. I want you to think about what they do outside of just being a police officer. They take that uniform off and put on another hat. And they deal with many children and teenagers that a lot of us don't want to deal with, to be honest. So they need to be commended with that, and they're changing the lives and changing the minds of so many youngsters and young men and women. I want to tell you a quick story. I knew this young man who was about 14 years old. He was on drugs when I met him. Marijuana, cocaine, you name it. I don't know if you remember a youth advocate program. I used to be a youth advocate worker, and he was my first case. It was very hard for me, very hard. I had to go visit him 2 or 3 times a week. He didn't pay attention to me. He didn't listen to me. But soon I had a breakthrough, and we started to get to know each other, and we spent more and more time with each other. And if you know, you volunteer, you got paid for the work, but you spent much more time with the young men and women that you had under your wing. But today, that young man just graduated from law school. So it really wasn't PAL that I belonged to at that time, another organization, but the same process. And what I'm here today to tell you is that our men from PAL, our men in blue, do a great job. From the chief down, Rick Cott, Officer Cott, they do a great job. And I want you to remember and think about, as you leave here today, what they do, what they're doing for the city, because what they're doing is molding leaders for tomorrow and molding leaders that you're going to see leading our community in the future. So I wanted to spend some time today just to acknowledge them and let them know that they're special. Please keep up what you're doing. And PAL, from now on, will be in the month of April where we celebrate PAL. And where you think about as a citizen, you know what? Do I have some time? Do I have some time to devote to some of those that are going to be leading us in the future? And if you can do that, I think we would all appreciate that. So with that, I'd like to bring Chief Farabella up. And Chief's got a couple words to say, and he's got some certificates to give out. How about for Chief Farabella?
I want to thank Commissioner Cooper for those fine words. He couldn't say it better. There's nothing like the heart of a volunteer. And I'm going to have Commissioner Pepitone come up here in a minute. He's going to hand out some certificates. But, you know, I always say this because it's something that triggered in my mind. I remember me and Mayor Mike Santiago went to a PAL board meeting, and it was my first time. It was probably 2.5 years ago. And we sat down with some of the board members we're going to recognize here today. And I remember Judy Kessler saying, you know, the P in PAL is missing. And I, what? What do you mean a P? And she goes, the police. And I thought about that, and I said, you know, I want to make a personal promise that we're gonna look at PAL in a different way. And I was just very fortunate that I have good police officers that really, you know, there's so many of them. And I know Cooper said the police. There's a lot of community members that help out in PAL, and you're going to see when these certificates come out. And it would not be successful without all of them. I'm very happy with PAL. 2.5 years ago, it was pretty much just a PAL board. Now there's tons of volunteers, programs that we've started, and just to name a few. And I'm going to ask Rick Cobb because he's the nuts and bolts behind it, and Sue Taylor as well, and many other officers. But just some of the things we started, the basketball team. We never had a basketball team. And that brought out 160 Center City kids that our officers and our volunteers intermingle with. And that's just amazing, and that's tripled over the last 3 years. A wrestling team, Vic Vasquez, who I wrestled with in high school, and he came up this year and said he wanted to start a wrestling program. And, you know, we went to the PAL board. We, you know, figured out all the nuts and bolts to it, the insurance. But how amazing that is. 40 kids came out and wrestled with you, and I want to personally thank you for that. Our flag football team is another 90 kids that came out. So many coaches also have, I think we had 10 teams. And it's just funny, and it's just going, I don't know where the ceiling's at. I was very fortunate to talk to Thomas Lamanna, he's a.k.a. Cornflake. And I don't know if you guys know him or not, but he's a boxer. And he's ranked, I believe, 13 in the world. And he's like our Mike Trout here in Millville. He's a Millville resident. He's a boxer. And they're trying to set up a date in sometime September for the racetrack, and he's going to have a fight. And he's very interested in PAL. And obviously we're going to go back to a PAL board, and we got to talk about that. I know there's some different conflicts with that. But and anyway, he wants to help out. And I tell you, it's just growing and growing and growing, and I couldn't be more proud. And I'm going to ask Commissioner Pepitone if you could please come up and give these certificates. Now, there's a lot of certificates. And I guess before I do that, I just want to recognize some of the PAL board members. Can you guys all stand up or wave your hand who they are?
Let's give them a round of applause.
I want to thank you. I will leave it to Commissioner Pepitone. He'll hand out certificates.
First of all, I'd like to take the opportunity to thank everyone who's involved in PAL. It is the connection of our youth to the police department and to the rest of the city of Millville. It's very important that we reach out to these people and give them something to do and show them that the officers and the entire police department is a positive force that's out there to take care of the city. And as they create these relationships through sports, we're going to go nowhere but up. So again, a round of applause for everybody involved in PAL. And my exposure to PAL was actually seeing Commissioner Cooper as one of the coaches. And we have a proclamation that we're going to read, but what I want to do is turn it over to him to read the proclamation, since it's his idea to make PAL, the month of April, PAL month. He's going to read that, then we're going to hand out the certificates. Thank you.
And I would be remiss if I didn't also acknowledge the volunteers. I'm sorry about the volunteers. But you guys play a very big part in it, and thank you as well. Proclamation, whereas the Millville Police Athletic League is a juvenile crime prevention program providing educational and athletic activities for all children, primarily those in high-risk neighborhoods. Whereas Millville Police Athletic League offer the youth, our community, the opportunity to interact with Millville police officers to create positive relationships. And whereas the goal of the Millville PAL is to reduce juvenile crime and victimization throughout the entire city. Whereas the Millville PAL offer programs and activities designed to instill values of integrity, responsibility, self-motivation, and teamwork. Also, whereas under the guidance of the Millville Police Chief, Chief Farabella, the Millville PAL Board of Directors, the programs have continued to grow more and more than doubled in the amount of youth participating in its programs. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the Board of Commissioners of the City of Millville do hereby proclaim Millville Police Athletic League PAL and declare the month of PAL Month in the City of Millville.
And I want to apologize, too. Commissioner Cooper is also a PAL member, or he actually coached the basketball team. And sorry I didn't say that, but how nice is that? We got a commissioner doing that and helping us, so great.
Ken, ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot of certificates, and I'm sure people are going to want to take pictures, but what I'm going to do is actually call the name. If, as I call the name, you want to come by and take a picture with the chief and the certificate, we can do that, but we're going to rotate you guys, and later we want to take a group picture. Okay, so it's going to take a little bit of logistics, but we'll get through this, okay? First person, Christine Abel. Fareed Abdur Rahim. Yeah, you. Fareed Abdur Rahim Jr. You can come up. His dad should have received the first one.
You have to go up.
Get up there. Call him out, Rick.
Make the young
Call
one
him out,
run.
Rick.
Okay, there we go. Gretchen Andrews. We'll get that to her. Cindy Angelo. Etta Benishek. Frank Blau. John Bogan. Jay Brown. Stephen Burke. Hey, bro. J.T. Burks. Amy Clark. Patrick Cobb. James Cobbs. Bruce Cooper.
I'll give it to him. I'll give it to him.
Harry Cramner. Jessica Cruz. Dwayne Dare. Vincent DeVita. William DeVita. Harry Drew. Ben Edwards. This is exciting to see how many people we have in this group. No, I mean really the people involved. Nelson Farrer. Patrick Frederick. Donnie Garrison. Heather Garrison. Sean Guy. Matt Harden. Camille Howard. Judith Kessler. Old friend. Michelle Cott. And Richard Cott. Thank you, sir. Thank you. John Cullen. Melissa Cullen. Joseph Laban. Shanika Lee. Chavez Lotman. Larry Malone. Rachel Moore. Alex Moran. Jason Peterson. Viola Pierce. Dallas Preston. Sorry. Wait, we have two people. We got Viola, I'm sorry. Viola and Dallas. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Rich Reynolds. Al Ripa. Rich Rivera. Brian Robinson. Christina Reyer. Kenneth Charette. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Once again for Christina. Kenneth Charette. Matt Stokes. Sir. Joseph Sutherland. Hey. Thank you, sir. Susan Taylor. Chris Uzzolino. Lena, sorry. Amy Vasquez. Vic Vasquez, you want to come up as well? Ready picture? Nancy Williams. Paul Williams. Willie Wright. Okay, I'm going to close up now.
Wait. There's one more. Chief Farabella.
Okay, once again, thank everyone for being involved in PAL. Remember, tell your friends that PAL is April's the month of PAL, and let's keep the program growing and stay involved. And thank you very much for that.
Unless you want to stay for a swearing in, you can leave now, but I suggest you stay for the swearing in. It's very important. So, Chief? Joe, you on board with this?
Once again, thank everybody for coming out today. Millville Police Department, it's a very special night. Tyler Lotek, he's just graduated from Gloucester County. He's going to be one of our Class 2s. And I'm not going to steal Commissioner Peppertone's thunder on what we're going to try to do for the city of Millville for more Class 2s and Class 1s. But this is the start. Special night because, you know, I'm going to tell you, he's 21 years old, 22. And his father has been a Millville police officer for 26 years. So when we came on, he was 2 years old, and he's following. He's following his father's footsteps, and it's a very touching, beautiful thing. I always said the Millville Police Department, it's a family, and I'm very honored not only to have his father work with us, now his son, and I will say in the academy he did quite well. He did well with academics, his training, and I don't know if he knows it, but I got the scores yesterday, so I'm very proud of what he did. Without further delay, we'll do a swearing in, and touched, happy, excited.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the government established in the United States
and in this state
and in the state
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
and justly
perform all the duties of Class 2 Special Officer
perform all the duties of Class 2 Special Officer
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my
So
ability.
help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
I'm going to have Tony Lotek, his father. It's a ceremony we don't always do, but it's an old tradition, and he asked to do that, and I'm honored for him to do that. He's going to pin his badge onto him, father to son. So. Does anybody got any tissues? Tissues?
Take another picture. Go back up. You can take one with the bucket. This is
commissioner. She should be in the picture. That's Mom. Yeah. She should be in that picture. Put him to work.
I got you guys too, right here.
One shot Joe.
Before you do that, let me say one thing. There's probably not a more noble vocation to become a police officer. I mean, I'm so grateful to see young men like that, as well as Mr. Santiago back there, who I get a chance to know through the campaign, that are coming in and working for our city on behalf of our city to keep it safe. Again, to all of the police department, especially you guys, I'm going to thank you, all you new guys coming in, for the service that you bring. And we're going to have Officer Cott announce the 2 winning teams. Is that what it is? Am I getting it wrong? For basketball.
For basketball, yes. Hi, everybody. Rick Cott, Millville PAL. There's a couple people we also forgot real quickly. I would like every PAL kid to please stand up. They came here today, too. Right there is the reason why we do all of this. And I'm going to start off with a couple of things. One, I truly, truly like to thank Commissioner Cooper. When he became city commissioner, I'm like, we're going to lose him. We're going to lose him. And I talked to him. I said, you still want to do basketball? Because that was never a question. He does it. He comes out there all the time. He gives 110%. And that means a lot to see a city official like you still out there helping. And I want to thank you. I'm going to start with the older division first. So this team, this coach is a first-year coach with us. And during draft, he says, you can give me whatever 10, 12 kids you want, and it doesn't matter to me because that's not why I'm here. I'm here to help these kids out. You can give me whoever you want, and I'm going to try to teach them the best I can. He took kids that were just neighborhood kids, kids he didn't know, and he turned them into a championship team. He's had a lot of problems himself that he's persevered to come here and do this, even though he's had problems with his health, to come every practice, every game, and give so much of himself that the kids absolutely love him. So I want to introduce Dallas Preston, the head coach to the Action Signs 14 and 17 team. And there's his trophy. And anybody from Action Signs is here. Stand on up. Let's see you. Who's Action Signs? Come on, champs. There we go, champ. Now, this is probably one of my most favorite stories with PAL. I started 2.5, 3 years ago, and one of the first couple kids I got to deal with was Matt and Fareed. They started off with PAL kids, coming to PAL events, playing PAL basketball. They graduated, and the first thing out of their mouth was, can we come volunteer and coach? So how successful, how great is that right now? They were so excited, and their enthusiasm was unbelievable that they, first year coaches, came and took their team to the championship. So I'd like to congratulate Plowmans for their 11-13 championship. Stand on up, guys. All the kids from Plowman, stand up. Who's ever here? And last but not least, we can't do any of this. For those who don't know, budget for basketball is over $10,000. And we charge the kids very minimum to play in the league. And for us to do it, we cannot exist without the community. It's just impossible. So I'm just going to rattle off our sponsors. PBA 213. The sports spot sponsored 2 teams. FiberDex. Let me tell you about some of these sponsors, too. They're not just sponsors. FiberDex came and handed out Christmas stuff to their teams. It's insane. Nancy Hunt from Berkshire Hathaway. She came out to games, came out to watch and encourage the teams. Plowman's donated for 2 teams. Bruni's Pizza, Glasstown Brewery, Millville Music Boosters found the need to come and help sponsor a team. And then Action Signs. And another big sponsor this year was Millville Elks 580. They sponsored our travel team, which is a double mission to be into. So like I said, we can't do any of this without them and all the volunteers. So I just want to thank everybody.
Yes. Absolutely. Oh, wait. Joe, did you say group shot?
If you want to.
I know, right? You missed it.
I was thinking of that, but I don't know how to put it together.
Hey, I got it right here.
You want to
Right here. Coach. Right here. We'll do it right here.
Ladies and gentlemen. Take the mic. You just say hit the mic. I said take What did you say? The quorum's out the window?
No, you're right.
Hello? Hello? We're looking for PAL volunteers to come up to the front so we can take your group picture. Oh, there you go. Trying to think of a song. Unforgettable. And this is all being recorded. Hey, Mike. The quorum's right out the window, or what? Jim, what do you think?
Come on, Cooper. Good to see you, man. Congratulations. How you doing? Congratulations. Hey, dude.
Come on, look what it looks like.
Be all sport. Service, right? How many years he has? It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's good. Yeah. I remember those days when I could run. I can remember those days when I used to run.
Yeah. She gave me a bottle of water one time, and I loaned it to somebody.
Look at him now.
I spoke to him on the phone.
Take care. Congratulations.
Did you call Gem Enterprises? You called and spoke with me. We played phone tag for a day or two.
Hey, you play flag football?
The message was for me.
That starts Saturday.
And then I called back, but I thought I called you back. I mean, you know.
You want to play flag football? I'll walk down to lunch.
Sure. With everything going on this week. I have your card. It's sitting on my desk. Yeah, I have it already. Did we get it? That part we did. We have a lot going on. PCS we hired as a consultant. I guess you know that from the meeting. They're side.
A long time.
It was just for 90 days. The guy we haven't done any now, if we decide we're going to get some kind of external help, then we'll have like they're only involved. We had some folks from SSI.
I think she walked out.
And
Oh yeah, she's still alive.
I always tell her, I said, always get intimidated. She's so athletic.
This is going to up
All right, commissioners, this will.
Before we get back, I want our chief to share with you something that's been on the internet that's really exciting, and he's going to share with you real quick.
As Commissioner Pepitone he just asked me, I told him some good news, and goes along with what we're doing our youth. And, you know, we just had a big talk on PAL, and again, I'm very, very excited. But I have a core group of kids, officers, that do a lot of things for our youth. And it just happened to come my way. Hey, Chief, did you see that Facebook page? And I tell you, it can make you cry. It was a nice piece out there. 4 officers in the middle of the street. They just happen to go out in the street, and here comes the citizens. They're running. They think there's something going on. They all have their cameras, and it's our officers out there intermingling with Center City kids playing basketball. So, you know, I saw that, and I said, that's the stuff that we want to emulate. And I couldn't be more proud. So I got it, and I just gave them a little letter of recommendation. And if they're watching here tonight, they're going to get it physically, but I'm going to read it. Letter of accommodation. Through social media, I learned that the 5 of you played basketball with some local youth in between taking calls on your tour of duty. I am very proud of you, all of you. You took the time to interact with these kids, presenting a positive impression of police officers for not only these youths, but all those who watched the Facebook video. I want each of you to know that your actions do not go unnoticed, and I'm pleased to keep up the good work. You have set a fine example of other officers to emulate alike. Sorry. Thanks, Commissioner, for letting me speak about that. I am very happy about those officers. So I'm going to tell you who the officers are. Officer Manny Morales, Officer Kenneth Sherritts, Officer Josh Smith, Officer Bradley Moore, and Officer Cody Miller. So we're very proud of those 5 officers. So thanks. That's just good stuff.
And on the heels of that, the chief and I had about a 3-hour meeting this week discussing how we want this summer to look, and it's going to involve trying to hire more officers, and that's going to take money. So I'll discuss that a little bit later about a tax increase, although it may not be popular.
Hey, Commissioner, you'll get your chance when you get up here.
All right,
Let's
thank
move
you
on.
so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
All right, let's go right into minutes.
Mr. Mayor, motion to approve and dispense with the reading of the meeting of the minutes and proceed with the regular order of business.
Commissioner,
Joe, you got a second?
Second the motion?
any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Bills,
Mr. Mayor, I move the bills be paid if properly certified.
Second the motion?
any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We've now reached comments on the agenda for the public. Anyone that would like to make a comment on an agenda item, please step up to the mic, state your name and your concerns, and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please.
Thank you very much. Good evening, citizens of Millville and Mayor and Commissioner. My name is Gary Meyer, and I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I'm certainly going to watch my 5 minutes. I do want to say that PAL is a great organization. I was in U.S. Naval Sea Cadets for 4.5 years prior to going to the military, and it absolutely saved my life because I could have got off on a really wrong track in my life, and I'm really glad to see an active participation and also the support from the commissioners and mayor here. I think it's very, very important organization. I spoke to your last meeting in regard to some problems I had at my business on Columbia Avenue in Millville, and we sustained over $40,000 in losses, and this is relative certainly to agenda items because this is going to go into the discussion about the budget. I wasn't really sure, to be frank, what was going on with the police department because we had a lot of things that weren't followed up on, frankly, properly. And I've been in here 5 years and I've had different things. And I'm not here to bash the police. There's an end here where I want to go here. I wasn't really sure if some people said, "Oh, the police gave up here." We know we have a lot of problems in the area. Some of it I think is acknowledged and some of it is not acknowledged. I live 43 miles north of here, so I'm an outsider other than owning commercial property here. And some things that would normally be reported and followed up on were not properly done. And it's not the first time. And I think to myself, what's going on here? Are the police overwhelmed? Is it bad leadership? So I go and I request a meeting with Chief Farabella. And I have to tell you, the first time I met that gentleman, absolutely impressed. Smart guy, absolutely cares. And he was so honest with me, I was bowled over. Because for somebody to admit what the problems are is the first step to solving the problems. Why hasn't it been solved thus far? I'm not sure. Millville doesn't have a narcotics squad. Should have about 5 people on it. There's one dispatcher. If the dispatcher's talking to an officer and somebody calls, he has to finish that call with the officer before he can pick up. If 3 people calling at once, the phone's just ringing. There's 4 to 7 officers on the street covering, 44 square miles at one time here? The police are reactive, going call to call to call to call. It's rare to have a moment where they can have an interaction like they did with the public playing the basketball. I thought that was wonderful, and I appreciate him being recognized. That is great. I'd really like to see some proactive policing here. They desperately need resources. Desperately. And I asked, some things, if I have a conversation, say, with Mayor Mike Santiago, and we talk personally, I would never disclose anything like that. That would be a violation of everything I stand for. But I have to tell you, Chief Farabella was so open with me. I would love him to be up here and really be deposed. What do you need? Because what he needs is resources desperately. He wants to fix the problem. He's absolutely undermanned. No implication to gender inferred. But he needs resources. Now, I know there's a plan on the table for Class 1 and Class 2 based on the past meeting here, but we need more. Most of you don't know that I looked at the Wheaton facility, that I talked to Rio Tinto, that I pulled the environmentals, that I went to engineering. Most of you have no idea. I doubt if anybody in this room knows that I also went to the Millville Ironworks to buy that property too. I'm an investor, but I'm scared here. I'm scared because we don't have proactive policing because they're undermanned. We don't have the proper investigative methods and procedures available because as soon as they're taking a report and trying to follow up, they're getting another call. This needs to be recognized and stop getting brushed aside respectfully. And, without a safe and secure area, economic development will just be totally eclipsed by crime. And I want to reiterate that. Whether it's a tax increase or it's not my place. It's not my place. But one thing is this. If, let's say I paid $200 a year in taxes extra or whatever, and I'm not saying that, and that wasn't even called for. Let's say if somebody said $50 a year, and the value of my property went up by $5,000. I mean, that's an exponential return on investment. I would just ask that we, A, acknowledge what's going on, B, have an effective plan in place, I think, with all due respect, eclipsing just the Class 1 and Class 2. I think that's a great initiative, and I appreciate it. And I just really want to see that. I'm in the Millville Historical Group. I love this little town, and I think it has so much potential. I was looking at railways and things going into that facility.
You have about
Thank
30
you very
seconds.
much.
Thank you, Mr. Myers.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Good evening, Commissioners. Angeline Broomhall, Millville. I'd like to speak regarding Ordinance 16.1, the first reading, regarding elimination of the Industrial Commission. We just spent 40 minutes patting each other on the back regarding volunteerism. It's vital in this city, not just with the police department, but in what you guys do, because that's clearly this isn't your primary income. With our zoning board, our planning board, all these things that go on in the city. There's things privately. There's Operation Fairy Godmother. There's the Phenom Holiday Party. There's the volunteers for the girls' softball, Little League. The city thrives and runs on volunteers. And it doesn't matter if it's for the kids or if it's for the elderly or if it's to run our government, economic development. This is a group of volunteers. And if this passes, it'll be the second time that at least I'm aware of that this commission has chosen to turn their back on volunteers who are participating in the political process. And while you may agree with them or disagree with them, they are part of this city. And their opinions and experiences are valuable. I was one of them. I was one of the people that you threw off, a sworn member of the zoning board that you didn't particularly like, or maybe I wasn't friendly enough with you. But you removed me, a volunteer, a sworn member. I'm just one. I don't know who's on the industrial commission, and that's regardless. But to remove something that's so vital to this city, to replace it with a paid entity is not in the best interest, and it certainly deters future people from standing up and raising their hand and say, I'll help. Think about that impact. Think about that the next time you want to eliminate a volunteer position in this city. You have whole meetings dedicated to trying to get people to participate, and in your same breath, you're trying to get rid of volunteers, and that is wrong.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, I close the public portion of this meeting on agenda items. Old business, please, Madam Clerk.
Okay, we have a motion that's needed to remove from the table ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code, eliminating Article 8 Industrial Commission, subsections 2-31 through 2-35.
Mayor, move for the motion.
Second the motion?
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
No.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, item 2 is a budget presentation by the City of Millville's Municipal Auditors, Bowman and Company, LLP. So the floor is yours.
I'd like to introduce Mike Cicero, my good old friend here that is going to make this slide presentation from Bowman & Bowman.
Good evening,
Thanks, Mike.
Mayor and Commissioners. With me this evening is also Ken Drews, an associate of mine from Bowman & Company. On the screen, we have some data for you. Just to clarify, the city has introduced their budget at the last meeting. This is as a courtesy. We're here to provide some additional information to the commissioners and to the city. At the following meeting, the city will have a public hearing where it will be open to questions on the budget. So we want to point out some highlights here. The net valuation of our community actually increased by roughly $1.7 million. So the value that we have here is $1,476,000,000, which translates to $147,000 for every penny that we have in the tax rate. Now, as the budget has been introduced, it is anticipated that the tax rate will remain stable in comparison to 2017's budget. And in fact, it has been pretty much the same rate for the last several years. Now, there is a slight increase in the tax levy itself of $26,000. We'll see that on another slide. The other thing that we do want to point out is that the budget is tax levy and appropriation cap compliant. So in New Jersey, there are two caps that the city must face. You have a tax levy cap, which is a restriction on how much the city can raise taxes to support the budget. And then there is the appropriation cap, which is the spending side of our budget. So once again, the city is compliant in both of those avenues. Another budget highlight is that there are very strong reserve balances that the city has, one of which is a tax appeal reserve, which is roughly $2.7 million. The city has been putting funds aside in case there are subsequent tax appeals. The Capital Improvement Fund, which is the CIF. There's also a debt service reserve and also capital surplus. So in the general capital fund, we have reserves of roughly $2 million in the event that the city needs to utilize those for capital purposes. One other highlight that we do want to stress is that the 2017 tax collection rate has been the highest since 2009. So we collected 97.85%, which is outstanding. We congratulate the Tax and Finance Office for that work. We do want to point out, though, that we do have to pay the county and the school 100%. So there is an appropriation inside our budget that helps cover the difference in those collections. The next to last highlight on the first page is the unused tax levy bank. So we have the ability to have $3.5 million in additional taxes if the city were choosing to do so. Now, of that, it doesn't mean that we knock on Millville Savings and Loan and say, where's my $3.5 million? This is a paper amount. This money has not been raised. It's not sitting somewhere in the city coffers. They have the ability to raise taxes to create this. That's kind of the same with the next item, which is the unused appropriation cap bank. This $1.5 million isn't sitting in a bank account either. This just means we have the ability to add appropriations to the budget of $1.5 million. Unfortunately, our prior city commission chose not to do the 2017 COLA ordinance, which would have actually made this $1.5 million even higher. So congratulations to the city commissioners for actually adopting the 2018 COLA ordinance, which is very important. Budget highlights continued. This budget actually has aid that increases to the local library of $20,000. It includes approximately $60,000 in increased costs for the animal shelter. We also have several new positions that are in the 2018 budget as introduced. That would currently include 5 new police officers, 1 new firefighter position, a new part-time evidence clerk, the conversion to full-time of a previously part-time tax assessment clerk, and in our water and sewer department, respectively, they would have 2 new full-time laborers each. So those are some of the budget highlights. Now the next slide, the revenue summary, might be a little too small for you to see, but we do want to point out that in New Jersey, municipalities have to have a balanced budget, meaning revenues must equal our appropriations. So for everything that we want to spend, whether it's public safety, finance, running the city clerk's office, elections, no matter what it is, we have to make sure we have an equal amount of revenue for that. In our position here, in our revenue summary, you can see that we have fund balance. We start off with fund balance. We're using $6 million of our surplus in this budget, which is slightly higher than last year's budget. We had an increase there of 4.7%. We have an increase in miscellaneous revenues. some of which are fees and permits. We can talk about that later. But the sad part about it is state aid revenue is stagnant, and it has been for every municipality. And that hurts because the burden then of providing services to the community are not really provided for at the state level. They become a city burden, and therefore the amount at the very bottom there, our amount to be raised by taxation, is $18,690,053 with the budget as introduced. And I just want to point out that's the comparison from last year is our $26,000 increase. Because the value of our community increased, the tax rate remains the same, but we do have a slight increase in the tax levy itself. Uniform construction code fees, pretty comparable. Right now, there are no grants that are anticipated, but sometimes they come through later on, and you'll have resolutions later on with Chapter 159 amendments. We also have our receipts from delinquent taxes, comparable to last year, and once again, we have the amount to be raised by taxation. So if we dig deeper into some revenue detail, which is even smaller, you can see that we have interlocal agreements, grants, once again taken out, but our utility surplus, abatements and pilots, the hotel tax, and some of our other special revenue items make up that previously $1.4 million that we showed on the other slide. So that's some of the revenue detail that we have. So once again, remembering that revenues must equal appropriations, we now go to our appropriations summary. And there we have a breakdown where we show general government, land use, insurance, and not uncommon for most municipalities that provide public safety. The public safety portion of the budget for the city of Millville is the largest share, and we have $8.4 million for public safety, which is up 2.46% compared to last year. Public Works is down slightly to $2.4 million. And we have, I guess, some of the other items there where you see deferred charges and statutory expenditures. You may say, well, what are those? Some of the statutory expenditures that we have are PERS, which is the pension payment. We also have PFRS, which is the police and fire pension payment. Payments to Social Security, which is FICA. So those items make up our quote-unquote deferred charges and statutory expenditures. The capital improvement line item is an amount to establish funds in our capital improvement fund. As I had mentioned under one of the budget highlights, we have roughly $336,000 in that fund. So when the city decides to do a bond ordinance, there is a requirement for a down payment, and that capital improvement fund helps provide for that down payment. Debt service, as established, has a steady history of payments, and we have just up by about just under $300,000 this year. So our payments are $3,294,000 this year. And then the last item is our reserve for uncollected taxes. Now this line item we try to keep as steady as possible, but this is the amount that we use to help collect funds to offset not collecting 100% of our taxes. As we had talked about earlier, 97.85% was our collection rate, but yet we have to pay the county and we have to pay the school 100%. So we use this reserve to help balance that and make sure that our cash flow is steady. Just digging a little deeper into some of the appropriation details, everybody likes to know, well, what's going on with salaries and wages? And we just want to point out in the budget, as introduced, you have $11.6 million in salaries and wages, which is up just under 1.58%. Your other expenses, insurance is one of the other major items that you have here. That is up slightly by $53,310. We have pensions and tax payments, which are, as I talked about, the payments to the public employees retirement system, the police and fire system, and of course FICA. That is up slightly. That's up $125,000. You receive bills from the state of New Jersey that are required to be paid for these pension payments, and FICA also increases because your salaries are going up. You have a corresponding increase in that line item. Reserve for tax appeals, because our reserve balance is so strong, we did reduce that appropriation this year. We do have a matching fund for grants, $50,000. That's in case we do have grants later in the year that if they require a matching fund, we'll include that. We already have that in the budget. Capital improvement fund we already addressed. Debt service we've already addressed. And the reserve for uncollected taxes we have addressed. Distribution of tax dollars. Based on the 2018 budget is introduced, the local share for you, the blue, is 37.4. So for every dollar of taxes that are raised, 37.4 cents helps run the city's budget. 24.6 cents of every dollar goes to the school system, and roughly 38%, the yellow portion, goes to the county. So those numbers will shift up and down depending on final assessments, the final budgets that are adopted for each party. But in comparison, 2018 to 2017, the municipal share of the budget has dropped down, but that's simply based on our introduced budget and based on current projections. Once everything's finalized, it could be pretty comparable to what we have here, so there shouldn't be too much. But questions concerning this budget would really be related to the blue portion. So if there's a concern about the school, concern about the county, they really shouldn't be addressed at this body. It's the blue portion that we have to talk about. Fund balance available and utilized. You may say, well, what is fund balance? Fund balance, in essence, is our piggy bank. So every year, at the end of the year, when Marcy in the finance office goes through and closes out the records, we find out, well, how much is technically left over. It's a combination of things that we haven't purchased. It's a combination of excess revenues over what we budgeted. So for us, we have a fund balance history here. The ultimate goal, generally speaking, is to try and keep your fund balance somewhere between 5 and 10% of your operating budget after you've utilized the amount for the subsequent budget. Now, some of you may be familiar with the school system. They are restricted in that they're only allowed to have 2% of their operating budget. Just an editorial, I believe that to be a low number. So in your case, where you are between 5 and 10% of your operating budget, you are actually in good shape in terms of our surplus. Would I ask or would I recommend using more surplus? The answer would be not really at this time, simply because as you've trended through the last several budgets, this budget would use roughly 67.5% of our surplus. Last year's budget, in comparison, used 65.8%. So now, a good rule of thumb for some towns, they've set a policy where they like to say, you know what, we're not going to use more than 50%, which is fine. It's a number that you can select. Even 67%, it's not bad to utilize that number, as long as you have an understanding that some of the items that those funds are being used for are one-time expenditures. Using surplus to increase staff, items that will continue on in perpetuity could be an issue, because where will the funding come from in the subsequent budget? And that's always probably the toughest challenge for any governing body member to make. When is the right time to use surplus? When is it time to raise tax? Do I provide service? Do I not provide service? So those are the questions that everyone struggles with. There's no right or wrong answer. There's only the way that we can say, as your professionals and as your finance office would say to you, tell us what you want. We'll do our best to give you the best numbers possible, project the best that we can, and come forward. So 67% this year is not an unreasonable number. So you see the trend. You can tell that, well, what happened in 2012 to 2013 to see such a spike in surplus? For those of you that have a long memory like I do, you know that back then we converted from a transition year, or a former fiscal year, to a calendar year. So that gap there is actually 18 months of activity. So that's why there's a major increase at that point in time. But the steady use, the red line, the steady use of surplus is a good target to focus on. Somebody could argue 67 is a little high, but like I said, at this point, you fall still between 5 and 10% of your current budget. And Mike, what do you mean by that? So we finished the year, December 31st, 2017, with $8.9 million in surplus. We're going to use right now, with the introduced budget, $6 million. So that, yeah, I guess if you round it, hopefully that math works, the 2.9 million is left over. And that 2.9 million does fall between 5 and 10% of the budget. 5% of the budget is 1.6 million. So you're well ahead of that. 10% of this budget is 3.3 million. So 2.9 isn't too far off. So kudos to the commissioners on that at this point. Local tax levy. In your presentations in the past, this red line represented, well, what could I have raised taxes for? So because we have a 2% levy cap, we started off back in 2010 and said, you know what, if we just raise taxes 2% every year, we'd be all the way up to well over or close to $21 million in a tax levy. And we know that our current tax levy that we're proposing to balance the budget is roughly $18,690,000. So the blue line has been fairly steady. As we've indicated for the last several years, your tax rate has remained stable. The value of the community has gone up and down slightly. And so therefore, the tax levy amount has also gone up and down, but yet the tax rate remains the same. So on the next slide, we're showing the tax rate. So you can see the blue line. Those of you in the medical community, I apologize because nobody likes to see a flat line in that case. Yeah, one laugh, okay. Thank you. The sympathy laugh. Okay. But in the same case, at 2% increases, the red line would be heading off the chart, okay? The total budget amount net of grants. Once again, looking at this, you can say that if we started back in 2010 with our budget between 30 and 31 million, and we added 2% to the budget every year, where would the budget be? The budget will be very close to 36 million, and we have a budget now of 33 million on the table. So the questions and comments from the commissioners, Marcy and I would be glad to answer.
I have a few questions. Would you consider this year to be a banner year for collecting revenue for the city?
The answer to that, I would refer you back to our slide. The indication that the collection rate has been the highest since 2009. So yes, it was a good year in comparison to some of the past years. I think back in 2009 it was 98.5.
Yeah, I just want to share some of my concerns with the overall picture.
Sure.
I'm not going to do what I did last meeting. You can look, I guess you could view it on Facebook or whatever. But there are some points that I want to bring up. The fact that we're having more of a balanced budget, or however you want to call it, we have newer positions that have been hired for less money. Is that correct? We have newer hires that cost the city less. As you said,
have breakage from that, yes.
Right. As you said, we shouldn't rely on using surplus monies to pay salaries. And are they not going to increase over the next few years? The salaries, I mean, the newer people that are hired at a lower rate, their salaries are going to increase. So
presuming they reach the next step or receive promotions, and yes.
So that's going to cost. That's going to cost us more money each year because we have a newer staff as they increase money. Healthcare costs were pretty low this year. Were they not the increase to healthcare?
Stable.
Okay, stable. Traditionally, have they been stable?
No. Not in the real market, no.
Okay, so this is again an unusual year for the amount that we have to pay for health care. It's very low. Increased cost utilities, has that gone up? These are like general nuts and bolts of the things that we have to pay for each year.
From a market standpoint, there have been some increases in some, decreases in others.
Okay, overall.
Depends on use.
Okay. Liability to JIF. Has that been down, up?
That fluctuates.
Right. I think we were stable this year.
We were stable.
Okay, but there's the potential for that to go up as well. And in the budget that's that have been presented, we have a $60,000 addition to pay for the SPCA that didn't take into account another officer as well as a vehicle that has to be added and very well may be required. So that's going to cost us to go into surplus.
Commissioner Pepitone, just one point though. On sheet 17 of your state budget document, just wanted to get back to the utilities portion.
Okay.
Even though there is a slight increase in what Marcy has budgeted overall, just want to point out that not every dollar is spent in those categories.
Right.
So at the end of last year, at the end of December 31st, 2017, we had approximately 400+ thousand unspent. So those dollars
In utilities itself.
In utilities itself. So in crafting a budget, what Marcy does, as any finance person would do, is they look at some of the line items and say, well, we could face an increase. We've all noticed as you drive by Wawa and every gas station, prices are going up. But already built into her budget, the city budget, is a cushion to absorb those increases.
Okay, that's very good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, and as I pointed out before, the SPCA situation that we're facing, that hasn't been included in the budget. In addition, earlier when I had talked from the microphone over there, police chief and I had met for a 3-hour meeting to basically discuss how we're going to change the city and confront crime. And one of the ideas that we came up with was creating a power shift. That's what I had talked about before, about looking for a tax increase. We could say we want to make this city better, but until we're going to decide to say we're going to put the money out there to hire the individuals we need to make a change, basically what we came up with was this. In the Center City area, what we want to do is have 8 positions that are going to be created. Okay, 1 Class 2, 1 Class 1. Their responsibility through walking, through biking, whatever you want to call it, will be basically housed in Center City, from Buck to 6th, from Broad to High Street. That seems to be the issue there. The other thing that we want to look at is bringing our
Commissioner,
yes, sir.
does this have to do with the budget, or can you explain that later when you have the time to do it?
Well,
I want to stay focused with the budget. What your plans are to do later with the police department, it's a great idea. I understand that.
Okay.
But I think it's not the appropriate time to say
The
that
part
now.
that-
I think we should answer the questions
Okay.
of the budget.
More bird's eye, I guess, at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, my interpretation of the budget is looking to have greater funding for more needs that have not been taken into account in this specific budget. That was the point that I want to make. Later on, I'll go into more detail. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one question.
Good.
I'd like to know if you could expound upon the miscellaneous local revenues.
Sure.
As it relates to the revenue summary.
So our slide presentation tries to group everything together. So we have other special items of revenue of $1,004,000, and I think the commissioner asked about the $2,020,000 miscellaneous local revenues. So miscellaneous local revenues are made up of alcohol beverages. So we're anticipating $14,500 in revenue there. We have other miscellaneous revenues that we're anticipating of $18,000. We have fees and permits of $870,000. That is being anticipated in that line item. Also included in this local revenue line item are the fines and fees that are collected by the municipal court, and that is approximately $371,000. We have interest and cost on taxes. So as we indicated, because our collection rate was at 97.85, there are those in the city that did not pay their taxes timely, so they are assessed interest and late fees on those. So that's the $175,000 in the budget. We also anticipate $80,000 in investment income, which is the banking interest that we earn. So those items, hopefully, with the addition of manufactured home licenses, our trailer park ones, $230,000. The cable franchise fee of $85,000. and rent from the Millville Library of approximately $177,000. So just for future reference, the state budget document that you will receive on sheet 4 and sheet 4A will include that breakdown of revenues, and that'll give you a total on sheet 4A of $2,020,180.
Did that answer your question, Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anyone
Pretty
else?
substantial.
Yeah, I have one other question. Basically, you had said when all the money comes in, we have $8.9 million in surplus.
Correct.
Okay.
Which I will point out is slightly higher than last year. Last year ended at $8.7 million.
Okay, that's good to hear. But when you talk about surplus, that would be like saying, for example, if I have, and I'm going to use arbitrary numbers, $200 in the bank, and I were to get a check for 2 weeks of $800, my amount in the bank now is $1,000. Now, truthfully speaking, I'm going to have to pay bills that month, and if they take that the $800 that I made, at the end of the month, I basically have, again, $200 in surplus. So at the end of this year, after we spend our money, will we not have $2.9 million, for lack of a better term, in discretionary spending?
The $2.9 million actually carries over. But, Commissioner, the one thing that you want to stress and understand is that, yes, we're using $6 million to balance this budget. And that's how we got down to the 2.9.
Right,
but that $6 million during operations for 2018, it's projected that that will be replenished, meaning that not every dime that is budgeted will be spent. And therefore, we're also looking, as the Commissioner Cooper had asked, about these local revenues. Of that $2,020,000, you hope to collect well in excess of that, because that's going to help return funds to surplus.
Right. And as I said earlier, this is a banner year, so this is a really, really good year for collecting funds. Hopefully, we'll be able to continue that up. But I want to make the point that at the end of the, wherever you're going to draw the line, the money that's left in the bank account after you pay your bills is $2.9 million. You're going to say you're going to get another paycheck the following week, and I understand that. But it's basically looking at if I have a continued expense of $6 million.
If the city shut down tomorrow, after we adopted the budget, and we paid everything out, everything that we owed, the answer to your question is yes, you'd have $2.9 million left over.
Okay.
Assuming you collected everything that you budgeted and you spent everything that you budgeted, you'd have a drop dead of $2.9 million. However, that will not be the case, because you will have excess collections. You will have not every dime spent in the budget.
So that you're saying for sure at the end of next year we're going to have a greater surplus.
I am not saying that, because nobody can project that.
Agreed.
If I could, I would have probably picked the winning lottery numbers.
I hear you, but and again, I'll say it the last time. At the very end of the week, month, whatever you want to say, putting it into personal accounts, after you've paid your bills at the end of the year, like I'd have $200 in my checking account, I'd have $2.9 million. So if events occur that are going to draw that money, then it gets a little scary.
Well, the $2.9 million will be, it should be higher, unless something catastrophic were to occur.
Okay. All right.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to go back one more time to the local revenues again.
Yes.
Okay, so as we frame that it must equal appropriations, are there any projections on any fixed income in those local revenues?
Local revenues itself, you cannot actually say, yes, I am collecting that, and I'm collecting in excess of that at this point in time. You certainly cannot do that. Whereas if you looked at the state aid line item, assuming the state adopts their budget, that amount is guaranteed to you. But there is no guarantee that your alcohol beverages will be $14,500 unless they've already paid their ABC licenses. I don't know what the renewal is. Okay. So they haven't paid yet. And it's certainly, we haven't had 12 months of operation of the municipal court at this point in time. So I can't say that, yes, you've got in excess of 371 at this point. So it's a year-long process. Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Any questions?
No,
for
I
him,
just want to thank you, Mike, for your presentation. I want to thank the commissioners for your questions, and we think this is an important budget to all of us, especially the taxpayers in this city. And we'll still be talking about some things with the commissioners of some of their needs, evidently, that they would still like to possibly put it within this budget. But my view is I'm going to try to maintain what we have right now. Again, I want to thank commissioners for all your comments or suggestions and things. If you have any further questions, great. We have 2 more weeks.
I will point out, Commissioner, that this budget on a rotating basis is under state exam this year. So it is possible once the state examines the budget, they may come back with some minor changes. And I've also met with Marcy. What will happen is we just want to emphasize, no matter what, at your next meeting, hold your public hearing. Because if you don't hold the public hearing, then the process has to start all over again, and you don't want to do that because that delays tax bills from a finance standpoint. You do have options to amend the budget as well if needed. The state may come back and say, well, we don't like this line item or we don't like that line item. They may say you need to change that. So that possibility may exist, but you would hold the public hearing on the introduced budget, and then if any action is needed, an amendment would be offered. Depending on the degree of that amendment, that could require another public hearing, and then the budget could be adopted.
Yeah,
so,
I think the point's very well taken, Mike, because, once again, we'll take this to the state for their okay. So it's, even though we're presenting a budget, once again, folks, the state's going to say yay or nay or cut this or do that. So,
correct.
We know what it is working up
You've
there.
been there.
But I want to thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Can I have one other question before we move on? Then, is it imperative that the vote be taken at the next meeting?
Timing, the state of New Jersey, in its wisdom, has established a calendar by which you introduce and by which you adopt the budget. They would probably be looking for an adoption quicker rather than later, because any delay that the city has delays getting information to the county, which delays getting tax bills out universally. Depending on your calendar, and I don't have that in front of me, I do apologize, technically the state wants the budget adopted at your next meeting. Now, having said that, since you're under state review, and if state resources have not gone through the process of reviewing the budget, they will tell us to hold the public hearing, but not allow us to adopt. So that possibility does exist. Is it 100% mandated that you vote to adopt the budget at the next meeting? No. You can hold the public hearing, have discussions, and then defer the vote if that is the will of the commission.
Thank you, sir.
Good.
Any other questions? Thank you so much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
And we will return for the public hearing.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mike.
Madam Clerk, can we go right into petitions and letters, please?
There are no petitions and letters, Mayor.
Reports of commissioners. Commissioner Cooper?
No report, Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes, would this be the time to discuss what I talked about before?
Go ahead.
The meeting that Chief Farabelle and I had was basically to create an 8-man system, I said, either by walking or on bikes to oversee Center City. It's actually a 9-month position that we're looking to do, having two officers work together, one number 2, one number 1, to basically patrol Center City area. In addition, we talked about moving the cars that traditionally circulate throughout the entire city, be more stationed closer to the Center City area, and when a call is needed, they could shoot out from Center City to wherever it is needed, as opposed to driving around the outside of the city. We feel with having this many officers or this much police presence in town, it's going to have a major impact on what goes on. The increased numbers of individuals within the town give the police officers, I'm sure, more confidence to go as a group in different areas to confront whatever the issues are present at that time. The cost of this is about $300,000. I had earlier proposed an increase of 4 cents on the tax levy to which would equal, for an individual having a $100,000 home, a cost of $40 for a year. It would generate approximately $588,000 in revenue, giving us even more money to either place in surplus, utilize for public safety, or other issues that may arise to impact the city in a negative way through cost. My department is public safety. I'm looking out for that. I've been given the job of saying, how do you make the city safer? I think we came up with a viable plan. I'm looking to implement it. I can't do it without any funding. I'm asking my colleagues on the commission to really consider that, and as well as the public. I mean, I've talked to many people out there in the public, and I would say I've gotten by far the majority of people saying, if this money's earmarked for public safety and we're going to make Millville a safer place, then we're behind doing it. I wish I could put it out to a public vote because I feel it would pass. We are faced with the commission making that decision. Again, it's between myself and the colleagues. I just felt it very necessary to provide for the city, from Director of Public Safety's perspective, what I feel is going to make Millville better. Public safety is an underpinning of everything that we have here. I'm grateful to see the young people going out there wanting to get involved. I'm grateful for PAL thinking about how much more interaction these officers can have with the city, and to change the real culture, the feeling of the city. And that's what it's about for me. So I thank you for the time, and with that, I'll close.
Well said, Commissioner. I can tell that you're passionate about it, so thank you so much.
Good job, Joe.
Thank you.
Commissioner Dalvis?
No report at this time, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Hey, we just had the presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
I do have a statement, and it's in regards to what's happening on Main Street. I want to give an update to the citizens of Millville in reference to the events surrounding East Main Street downtown, and the work done on 109 East Main Street, known as the Eagle Building, which shares a common wall between 103 and 105 East Main Street, which is Jim's Lunch. Monday, a week ago, the Millville construction officer inspected and issued a notice of unsafe structure to the owner of 109 East Main Street. The building was determined to be in such poor condition that a structural engineer was brought in to do further evaluation and determine what could be done to shore up the building. Using those recommendations, the city has hired a contractor to secure the site. The road was closed with precautionary reasons and remains closed at this time. Work has been done to repair Ware Avenue so that we can take some of the burden of the traffic that's accumulating on Main Street and High Street. This would minimize motorists gathering at the top of the hill. We encourage motorists to use Ware Avenue. Found the emergency work that took place at 109 East Main Street to ensure the safety of the site. We now turn towards what to do with the building. We have been in contact with the owner of 109 East Main Street, Mr. White, who has been helpful, but we believe ultimately he will be unable to pay for the work that needs to be done on that building. Tonight we will go to discuss, this commission will discuss about having our attorney go to the court with the permission of all the commissioners for the city to demolish the building or placing a lien on the property for the cost to be absorbed by the city. We have invited Mr. White, the owner of 109 East Main Street, to be here to discuss the matter, and our city attorney has been in contact with him, keeping him up to date on the situation. We have been in regular contact with the Mall family and their attorney, Mr. Pancaria, and they're here tonight to represent. He's here tonight to represent his client, and they're also here also. The best outcome for the city as a whole, while doing what we can do to protect the beloved local business of Jim's Lunch. It's at our heart. We're trying to do the best we can. I want to thank all our city employees, the police department, the fire department, the professionals for their efforts to protect and serve the interests of our citizens. This is a challenging and unfortunate situation. We are sympathetic to the building owners and to those who work and patronize Jim's Lunch. We're addressing this situation which has been placed in our laps, and we'll do our best to find the best outcome for all. With that, we'll continue to move on.
If I may, Mr. Mayor, I do have something to add in there. I have the New Jersey Motorsports Park disclosure statement as of December 31st, 2017, in accordance with Section 5.2.3 of the financial agreement. New Jersey Motorsports Park, LLC, 2016 and 2017 independent auditor's report and financial statement. Move be received and filed.
Joe, second.
Second the motion?
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Can we move right to 14.1, please?
Okay, sure. We have correspondence received from U.S. Senator Cory A. Booker concerning new legislation providing for a new tax incentive called the Opportunity Zones Program that offers a powerful tool to local leaders to bring private capital into distressed neighborhoods and communities across New Jersey. And also an insider New Jersey press release dated March 22nd, 2018. Governor Murphy submits recommended opportunity zones to U.S. Treasury. Said press release listed the city of Millville as one of the municipalities that was submitted to the U.S. Treasury for the Opportunity Zone program.
Mr. Mayor, I move to receive and file this correspondence.
Second motion.
Any comments? This is a great opportunity for the city of Millville that all of us are happy to see. We went to battle for this, so you know. We found out that our neighboring communities, Vineland and Bridgeton, had an opportunity to this, and Millville was left out. These commissioners went to fight, and we were able to convince the people in Trenton that we should have a hand at this, and we did get a hand on this. So hopefully these monies that come in, we'll be able to use them in specific areas to improve the quality of life within the city of Millville. I'm very happy that that the governor and our senator, Mr. Booker, did look at the city of Millville and did give us a hand for the future of this city. Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Ordinances on second reading, please.
We have an ordinance approving and authorizing an application to the Cumberland County Roadway Department for the Millville Development Corporation to hold a coin drop on May 5th, 2018 at the intersections of Buckshootum and Cedarville Roads.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this ordinance on second and final reading.
Second the motion.
This ordinance is on second reading, ordinance number 1. We open this up to the public. Anyone that would like to make a comment on this ordinance authorizing an application to the Cumberland County Roadway Department, please step up to the mic, state your name and your concerns, and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please. Seeing no one, I close ordinance number 1. Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2 is an ordinance prohibiting smoking or use of tobacco and tobacco-related products upon the properties of the city of Millville.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this proposed ordinance on second and final reading.
Second the motion.
Once again, this is an ordinance on second reading for public hearing. Anyone that would like to address this ordinance prohibiting smoking or use of tobacco and related products upon properties of the city of Millville, please step to the mic, state your name and your concerns, and limit your comments to 5 minutes, please.
Donald Nalbut from the Southwest Council and also a Millville resident. I just want to say thank you to all of the commissioners, and this has been a collaborative effort working within our prevention coalitions to give the youth of our city a voice, and we're proud to see 2 of our local youth speak about why they're passionate about seeing an ordinance like this passed in our city to make our place a safer and healthier place for our kids to grow up. So we're just very excited to see this pass, hopefully. Thank you.
You're welcome, Don.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chelsea Santiago, and I'm here on behalf of the students who presented to you at the work session meeting. Unfortunately, it's spring break, so they weren't able to attend the meeting, but I just wanted to come and let you know how empowered the students are from coming here and you giving them feedback. And from this point, they have been empowered to participate in more community efforts for community change. So thank you, and thank you for considering this ordinance.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good evening. I'm Kim Burns from Tobacco Free for Healthy New Jersey. And again, I just want to thank you for bringing this ordinance forward. We're hopeful that it will pass. And I just brought one of the signs. I'm not sure if everyone has seen these, but under our grant, we're able to provide these to Millville free of cost. They'll be personalized, as many as you need. So we'll go into the budget.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, commissioners? Any comments at all? I like to make a comment that when this was introduced, Commissioner Udalvis brought up a good point, and this is what matters about this commission is that we sat down, we talked about this, and we came up with a resolution that benefits all of us. So I think this is a great thing that we're doing as a city. And with that, roll call.
Commissioner Pipitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Motion carried. Madam Clerk, ordinances on first reading, please.
Okay, we have an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code, eliminating Article 8 Industrial Commission subsections 2 through 31 through 2 through 35.
Mr. Mayor, move for the passage of this proposed ordinance on first reading with final consideration to be given on April 17th, 2018, after due publication provided for by law.
Second the motion.
Any comments?
I do have a comment, Mr.
Go ahead.
Mayor. At the March 20th regular meeting of the Commission, I had expressed my rationale for tabling the first reading of the ordinance that would result in the dissolution of the Industrial Commission. While examining the unique components of Chapter 2, Article 8 in our Millville Municipal Code, I remain steadfast in my opinion that every opportunity offered at the municipal level to create additional access to economic development should remain in effect in order to maintain additional avenues for communication between the city and potential businesses that hope to boost economic development in our community. We certainly value volunteers in this city commission, as well as the contributions of citizens in our community to various endeavors. Consequently, I feel that we have an opportunity to convey this value positively through maintaining the Industrial Commission and promoting it to reflect the diversity of our city, as we have promoted other boards and commissions, especially in regard to economic development. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Any other commissioners have any comments? No. Roll call.
Commissioner Pipitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
No.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
And Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, second item is an ordinance amending the Municipal Code of the City of Millville, Chapter 39, Motor Vehicles and Traffic Regulations to add the following parking reserved for handicapped persons. To
Mayor-
add 407 East Broad Street, George M. Bird.
Mayor, I move for the passage of this proposed ordinance on first reading with final reading consideration on April 17th after due publication as provided by law for the second and final reading.
Second motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pipitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 3 is an ordinance authorizing an amendment to Chapter 43-40 regulations regarding the insurance requirements for special events on public property involving alcohol service and sales to comply with NJSA 40:49-4, which requires these policies remain up to date.
Mr. Mayor, move the passage of this proposed ordinance on first reading with final consideration to be given on April 17th, 2018 after due publication provided for by law.
Second motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pipitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Item 4 is an ordinance authorizing the following changes to Chapter 2, Article 19, subsection 2-69 of the Municipal Code. Remove the following title and range of compensation: water meter reader at $8.25 an hour to $25.48 an hour, and add the following title and range of compensation: meter worker 1 with a minimum of $8.60 an hour and a maximum of $25.48. this was not part of civil service any longer, which is why we're changing it.
We're making it part of civil service or not?
Civil service does no longer recognize as water meter readers, which is why we're making it a meter worker one.
Very good, thank you.
With that, Mr. Mayor, I have a certification. No, I don't either. I have passed this proposed ordinance on first reading with final consideration to be given on April 17th, 2018, after due publication provided for by law.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Resolutions, please.
Okay, we have a resolution certifying the list of volunteer firefighters who have qualified for the Length of Service Award Program LOSAP benefits for the year 2017.
Move for the adoption.
Move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 2 is a resolution approving a discharge of mortgage executed by Diane M. Chance for property located at 320 F Street, Block 314, Lot 19.
Mr. Mayor, move the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 3 is a resolution amending resolution number 263-2017 adopted on September 5th, 2017 to correct error made in administrative fee billed for Block 376, Lot 10 for a cut and clean assessment and changing from $500 to a $250 administrative fee.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 4 is a resolution authorizing senior citizen and disabled deductions to be added back to the tax records due to recipients' failure to return the required form or indicate their income exceeded the statutory limit for 2017.
Mr. Mayor, move the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 5 is a resolution authorizing adjustments in the tax and utility records.
Mr. Mayor, move the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 6 is a resolution authorizing the City of Millville to enter into a 20-year land lease agreement with the United States of America Department of Transportation Federal Aviation Administration for continued location on the Millville Airport outer marker for runway 10.
Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 7 is a resolution approving a discharge of mortgage executed by South Wade Realty, LLC for property located at 412 South Wade Boulevard, Block 489, Lot 10.
Mr. Mayor, move the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries. Item 8 is a resolution authorizing a memorandum of understanding between the City of Millville and Inspira Medical Center Woodbury for 911 pre-hospital basic life support services for an annual donation made by the City of Millville to Inspira in the amount of $105,000.
Mr. Mayor, I have the certification of funds in the amount of $105,000 from CFO Marcella Shepard, and move
The adoption.
for the adoption of this resolution.
Second motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries.
New business, please.
We have a motion to approve the following special event on public lands application, Memorial Day Parade sponsored by the Millville Recreation Department on May 28, 2018 at 9 a.m. Beginning on Mulberry Street, proceeding down High Street to Route 49. Mr. Mayor, I move for the adoption of this resolution.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries.
New business 2.
Which one is it?
Number 2.
Number 2, motion to authorize
New business number 2, 18.2.
Yeah, okay. Mr. Mayor, motion to authorize the social fare permit on behalf of Ukrainian National Home, Hook Avenue, on April 21st, 2018, from 5 p.m. to 12 a.m.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We've now reached the public comment portion of our meeting. Anyone who would like to address the commission, please go to the podium, state your name, and address your concerns, and please limit your comments to approximately 5 minutes.
Robert Barrett, citizen of Millville. There's an awful lot of talk being thrown around about new police building and such, and I just don't understand because the current police building is only 32 years old, and I don't see any reason because there's no reason that the current one can't be modified to suit the needs of our police department now. There's no reason to spend millions of dollars to build an entire new facility. Now, I fully support the police. Everybody here knows that. But y'all are taxing the citizens to death. Commissioner Pepitone, I heard tax increase coming out of his mouth. And it's just ironic because one of the families that y'all have it out so bad for and despise so much are going to be the only ones who can afford to live in Millville by the time it's all said and done. And another thing, Commissioner Udalvis, I got it right? Yes. Okay. I'm praying for you because I have seen firsthand what happens to female commissioners who disagree with their Democratic fellow commissioners from the commission before. And it's just scary for me because I see how she was treated. And I don't want you to end up the same way. Unfortunately, there was a female commissioner before who didn't see eye to eye with the Three Stooges in 2015. And I hope you don't suffer the same fate. Thank you.
Mary Messicure of Millville. I understand what this commission wants to do, and I agree. Yes, we need to bring things in. We need to increase certain parts of our local government. Everyone knows for over 23 and a half years I've stood side by side with the police department. I've applauded them for the things that they've done, especially when I feel that they've gone above and beyond what is actually listed in their job description. But to sit there and talk about raising taxes, that's fine and dandy in a perfect world where everybody has a job, everybody's got at least a six-figure paycheck coming in. When you take people like myself who unfortunately have to settle for what the government gives us, and it doesn't really give you all that much, and then you want to turn around and have the state raise taxes, want more money out of you, the school board wants more money out of you, now your local tax wants more money out of you. Where is that money going to come from when it doesn't leave you much? I've already explained how that little shoestring budget that the government gives you to one commissioner already, that doesn't leave you money to pay for groceries, doesn't give you the money to turn around and pay to get a ride to the grocery store, much let alone go to the doctor. So how are you going to expect people like myself and others turn around and afford to do this? We're going to end up with more homes that are sitting there empty. I live on a block that I have more empty homes than there's lived-in homes. A suggestion to your getting money, the law says by motor vehicle. No vehicle is allowed to turn around and make a turn on a lane that is not designated as a turn lane. And we've got several streets in this town that people are doing this. I've done question this multiple times. To give you an example, you're on Broad and 2nd. There is no right turn lane. It's one straight road. If you turn around and you make that turn and you get it hit, you're the one getting the ticket because you're in the wrong. Start using ticket books. I know we've got them. There's money there coming in. That's a revenue. That's a resource that can be used to turn around and use towards getting more police officers. The other place, Broad and High, they do the same thing. You have a sign over here on High Street that says you can't make a right-hand turn from 1 time to 3 p.m. That's a turn lane. We don't have them in other places, but yet you've got people doing it. That's illegal. That's a crime. Utilize and do what needs to be done. And there's some money so you don't have to go 2 cents, 4 cents, or even 1 cent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Samantha Cruz, in the Parks Department. I've come tonight to talk about the RVC, which, if anybody doesn't know, is the Recreation and Volunteer Committee that we started last week, and there's a couple people in the room that attended, and I really appreciate that. We had a room, we had a room of 30 people, and to be honest with you, I thought it was going to be Bruce, Joe, and myself standing there, and the mayor and his wings. Thank you, Mayor. I know I bullied you a little bit about the wings, and I'm sorry, but you did say you were going to give them to us, so we did get them, and they were very, very good. But
Joe.
what's that?
BJ Roasters.
Yes, BJ Roasters. Yes, they were very good, and they were on time. I walked in, we got them, so it was great. But the RVC is dear and near to my heart. I always, since I've been here in the city, I was a volunteer at the Recreation Department, and I always thought it would be great to have input from the public, so I really appreciate Commissioner Cooper definitely. He took the idea and he even added to it, and we made it big and better. And like I said, we had 30 people there. We've had a lot of people reach out, want to get involved, and our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, April 25th at 6 p.m. We are going to change the location to the RCA, which is 22 North High Street.
Say the date again.
It's going to be Wednesday, April 25th at 6 p.m. What we kind of talked about was going to different locations. So I think we're gonna embrace that idea and go to different places for our meetings. We're gonna try to change maybe a couple days too. I did have quite a few church people reach out to me. I want to be there, but I can't. It's Bible study, and I respect that. So we'll work on that too. But with the RVC, we want some branding going on. So we are starting a logo contest. So we encourage everyone to submit if you have some artist talent, and we are going to provide a dinner for 2 for the award winner. So the RVC is happening, and we're moving. So if you have any questions, you can reach out to myself or Commissioner Cooper. I did have the pleasure of sitting in our first Play Streets meeting, which I know even some of you here in this room, once again, were involved with that. This will be our 3rd year. We do it every Wednesday. We really want to thank the Holly City Development Corporation. They're like they're the top dog. I don't know. I'm looking for a word there, and I'm not getting it. And the City of Millville has co-sponsored the event for numerous years, so that obviously covers the insurance for it, and we also provide the tables and chairs, and so we're going to be a part of that again. They also need volunteers for that, so if you're interested, we have that going on, which this is all being posted on our webpage and our Facebook page, and you can reach out to us at any time, and we'll answer that. And then, of course, we always have until May 26th our Holly City Striders at Lakeside Middle School from 6:30 to 7:30. We have a lot of opening days coming up this weekend for all of our athletic fields. So it's hopefully the rain will move out and we can have some great opening days here in Millville. So I appreciate it. And if anything, give us a call. I've said it before. Facebook me. I respond, right? Facebook me, call me, email me. What? Don't. Yeah, well, I do respond, though. That is, I will say that. I do respond. So I appreciate that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Samantha.
Good evening, Tim Cardi Mobile. First off, Commissioner Udalvis, I give you the outstanding award tonight for standing your ground. And I agree. We sit up here, you guys sit up here about volunteer, but you're going to cut a volunteer organization out of this city that's costing us nothing. Unlike Merck, who cost us $300,000, and they never opened up their books, which I can't figure out why you want to go back and do business with them, even though we still had an industrial commission that worked with them. I'm done on that one. My next one is the EMS MOU. We're sitting here and we're talking about budgets, but yet we're giving a donation to Inspira Hospital of $105,000. My question is, it's for 9 months. 9 months, $105,000 donation. Now we're talking about raising taxes. Inspira is going to send that person, let's say, like Mary, who doesn't have insurance, or she does have insurance and is not covered, they're going to send her a bill for their service after they get what they can get out of insurance. So that bill, if it's not paid, she's going to collections. But yet they're receiving $105,000, which is part of her tax dollars, my tax dollars, and all your tax dollars. And in turn, they're billing our patients. They're billing our residents. That's double dipping. But yet we decide to give them, hey, we'll give you a $105,000 donation. Are we holding them accountable on this MOU to response times? Is there a penalty in the MOU if they fail to response times, or if mutual aid comes in and takes response times? $105,000 for 9 months of service. If you're willing to make donations, I'm sure everybody in this room would like to have a donation right now for 9 months. I could start my own business and say, hey, I need $105,000 for 9 months of service. But yet you want to raise taxes for the normal resident which might not be able to afford $40. We're showing people's waters off for $25,000. My question is, was there negotiations with this MOU? Did we talk to it? Maybe, hey, $40,000. Let's do $35,000. They're making money off of us. But yet we keep giving them money. And people are going to be losing their homes even more. It was a bad move at $105,000. And hopefully next year it goes out to bid, and somebody will bid even lower, so that way it take the burden off so you can have your Class 1, Class 2 officers. You can't sit up here and you can't preach you want to raise taxes for stuff, but yet you're giving out $105,000, and then people are billing us for their service.
Good evening. Kirk Hewitt, Millville. I asked last year, Mr. Mayor, you're the only one left sitting there. I brought up a question, and it has to do with Commissioner Papatone's search for maybe some money for the chief. And today was a perfect example again. I asked last year, where do all of the revenue go for today, for instance? 3 state troopers were on Cedar Street in Millville jurisdiction for 4.5 hours. I'll bet you they wrote 100 to 125 speeding tickets on that street. I live there. I watch them do it when they do it. This is a 5 to 6 time a month happening. Where's that money go to? The tax folks, they're gone. They spoke about fines and revenue from the municipal court. That's a lot of money being inked away. Where I got no answer last year. Maybe this commission because I've called out the other commission. Don't think I just call out you guys. I haven't called anybody out yet. I'm gonna when I'm finished. Maybe this commission can find out where all this ticket revenue, and I'm not even saying anything bad about the troopers. Man, I live on that street. I'm glad they're there, and they are there at many, many times every single month. Today, they were out there in the rain. Let's find out where that money's coming from. There's some more revenue. Commissioner Ulavis, you have support. Commissioner Pepitone, I want to support you. Commissioner Parent, I'm going to leave you alone.
That's all right. You're okay.
You haven't done anything.
Kurt, I guarantee before 4 years are up.
Oh, yeah. It's like I told Joe Suey when I first met him, I'm going to be a pain in the butt one of these days. Mr. Mayor, you're just sitting there doing like normal.
Thank you.
I don't know if you thank me or not. Commissioner Cooper, I'm going to echo Angel. Volunteer, 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 volunteer. We hear it from you every meeting, beginning and end. It's the same thing we heard from the other seat here for 4 years prior. I'm the other one that you guys said, boom, get out of here. We don't want you in our organization. I was the other one sworn into the zoning board on January 2nd. Can I ask a personal question? You're probably not going to answer it. Does the fact that former Judge Paul Parecka sits on the Industrial Commission for 0 pennies, I'm not even going to say dollars, have something to do with the decision to go back to the failed organization of Merck? There's a reason that yous are going back to Merck, and I don't think it's right. Commissioner Ulavis, I hope I said it right. I'll get used to it. I thank you for standing up like you did the last 2 meetings for what is right on the Industrial Commission. I'd like to say, Commissioner Parent, Mayor Santiago, Commissioner Cooper, I want a reason to stand up here one night and say thank you. But I'm not getting it. I've had messages, instant messages, requests, but you know, then you just turn around and certain people just get the smack in the face. It would have been real nice to see the MOU. I worked on that and ran miles and shoe leather. Doesn't matter, I'm retired, I got time messing with this. You asked me the next to last meeting. I wasn't here the last meeting. If I was going to stay around after the work session, Commissioner Pepitone, because you wanted to talk to me about the MRS Inspire situation. You blew me off when I came over to talk to you that night.
I apologize.
Yes, you did.
If I do,
Don't
I
make an
apologize.
excuse.
That's not like me, but I apologize.
It would have been real nice instead of just going to a resolution and throwing $105,000 towards Inspire, that it could have at least been released to the public so we could see what's going on. I mean, you just didn't even read it in tonight. It's not in the agenda for us to read. It's just we're giving them $105,000, and if they come and get you when you're laying on the ground, if they got time to come and get you, okay. But if not, we'll call Laurel Lake and hope that one of their squad vehicles is not sitting in the body shop from a wreck like it's been, and maybe they'll get you on time, because Inspire is not going to. I said before to the old commission, Mr. Mayor, once they get that MOU, they are going to turn around and force this commission to, if there's a get-out clause in there, they're going to force the 5 of you to throw them out because they just didn't want to walk away. That's what they wanted. And if you remember, I spoke about that many times, the escape clause. They don't want to say we don't want the emergency business in Millville. They want to give you a reason to toss them out, and you'll be right back to where I have been asking for almost a year. Do your due diligence. I've just been saying that to you folks for 3 months. But it was being said to the other commission also. I think you've made a mistake. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to stand here. I don't know what the clause is now. First it was 3 months, then it was 6 months. Looks like now it might be 9 months for a get out for either party, just from hearsay, because we don't know. Probably around 6 month period, you'll be calling Inspire out and they'll be saying, well, we did our best. They've been doing their best since they took over, and it's not too good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. Angeline Broomholm, Millville. I did my bills this morning, and I had to sit there and figure out where the money's going to go. And I didn't have enough money for it all. Never do. And that's just life, right? It's how most people in America, I think, the average household is, right? We got to figure out, do we have all the money for the electric bill? Do we have all the money for the cell phone bill? Do we cut out of the groceries? That's what you need to understand, Mr. Pepitone. You can't keep giving away money to Merck and donations and to all your special interests and your special friends and then turn around and tell me you want $40 more out of me. I ain't got it. I ain't got it. Different subject. I recently watched an upsetting video with our chief of police, an interview. The inability to afford body cameras was mentioned. Have we forgotten that we were offered a grant for body cameras and the chief turned them down? Vineland and Bridgeton didn't. ShotSpotter was mentioned. It was said, quote, whenever shots have been fired within the city, I know that none of our officers drove around trying to figure out where they came from. Not true. In January, the public safety report, January of this year, there were 7 calls for shots fired. Only 2 were confirmed. On August 29, 2016, Millville Police Department received a call for shots fired in Center City. Police were unable to confirm the call. 8 minutes later, there was a call for an unresponsive man. EMTs were dispatched, and the man was found to be a victim of a gunshot wound. The scene was not secured before EMTs arrived and the victim lost his life. Anyone who works with first responders knows that there's a gunshot victim and EMTs get called in. The area has to be the EMTs have to stage aside to make sure that area is secure before they are sent in. That was not done because there was no way to find him. Or the retired veteran's home who was shot twice in as many years. The incident was not discovered until the next day. Avondale, Ohio recently installed ShotSpotter in 3 square miles. In the first 4 months that ShotSpotter was installed, it detected 257 gunfire incidences, not individual shots, incidences. Only 40 of those incidences resulted in a call to 911. This accurate information is in no way a negative statement on our officers or the residents who call in with information. Human senses are limited. Just as we invest in extremely equipped vehicles for faster response time or expensive radios to make communicating instant, ShotSpotter is a life-saving tool. All of our first responders and the residents deserve the truth about this technology. The comment for the residents who attend commission meetings, quote, don't be the negative person, come with help, come with suggestions, get involved. There have been countless suggestions brought to this podium to improve Millville. ShotSpotter, fines for excessive alarm calls, ending the practice of giving big raises to the top while our new hires have the lowest salaries in the area, applying for grants, volunteering to apply for grants, even tickets, other things. That's all that has come to this podium in years. That's what we've been coming with, is support and help. Most, if not all of those in this room tonight spend countless hours volunteering their time to make the city better. None of them have 480 hours of flex time to compensate them for their time. So please don't clock me. While he is entitled to his opinion and may not like what is said here, it is not for him to critique the caring residents of this city. We are the consumers of his services. Our voices and concerns should be heard and considered whether you like them or not. To dissuade residents from coming to this podium and sharing their concerns is counterproductive to everyone's stated goal, which is to make Millville better. The choices being made as of late have been divisive. Getting rid of volunteers twice by this commission. To heal, we need to all work together. We don't need... I watch these commission meetings. I watched when Susan did it, and I was always in awe, and I always wondered how Jeannie would fill her shoes, and she's done an amazing job. To sit there with no emotion, despite she may have some inside, but to have that straight face and to be able to accept what's going on in her city is a very difficult thing to do. And our chief could take a lesson out of her book. Don't criticize me for having the time and energy and the caring and concern to come up here every meeting. And I don't usually criticize. I ask for help. I have opinions, and I offer help. And so does every other person who stands up here, like Mary Messick, like Tim Carty, like the several people that come here meeting after meeting to support you. Yes, sir. We may not always agree, but we are all in this together. And I ask that you allow us to participate and to not continue to close the doors on us. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else, I close the public portion part of this meeting. Madam Clerk?
Okay, we have a resolution authorizing a closed session for the following matter: 109 East Main Street, dangerous structure under potential litigation.
You want comments, Commissioner?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, I'm sorry. Comments of commissioners. Excuse me.
We know Commissioner Pepitone has a lot to say. So, all right, we'll go to comments of commissioners. Let's go to Commissioner Cooper. Joe.
Go ahead, Joe, you're on.
Nothing?
No comment, Mr. Mayor.
Wow.
Commissioner Pepitone.
First of all, considering there's so much to talk about, EMS. We had a final meeting today, and I will honestly say I don't know. I haven't watched commission meetings, but if you don't feel that you've had enough input or opportunity to give input into the decision that's being made, I don't know what to offer you. First of all, Mr. Carty, you said for 9 months. I wasn't aware of this. I found this out today. And Spear has not been paid anything since the beginning of the year. So for that amount of money, it covers the year that they're doing. Okay, regardless, that is the fact. Secondly, as I said before, I asked for people's opinion, and I am grateful for that, and I will take that into account. But I promise you, I will be the individual who will make the decision based on the responsibility placed on my shoulders, as well as all the information that I take in, some that you're not privy to, and it's impossible to air everything out publicly. The issues that I actually, and we had a presentation, was it the last meeting or 2 meetings ago by Inspira, who made everything crystal clear. Well, the reason why I'm choosing to go with Inspira was they have superior training, constant ongoing training for individuals of how they are to maintain and carry out their job of transporting people. The quality of medical treatment was higher than any of the other ones that we saw. They already have a large investment in the city, and we're articulating a response time of 10 minutes. From what I understand, from the beginning of the year, it's been 9.47 seconds as an average response time, where Cumberland County's general, I think it's 15 minutes. Did you want to add anything, Council? It was part of the final meeting. As I said, the responsibility lies on my shoulders, and I feel very comfortable with Inspira. I don't feel that they're going to walk away from it. In fact, I think they're going to have a greater investment in the city, and I'm very proud of the decision that I made. As you said, we won't always agree, but the $105,000 has already been appropriated. It is in a difference from what what was set there before, so therefore I'm very comfortable with the decision. Concerning the individual, I don't know who the gentleman was, he said we despise people of the city. I don't understand what that comment was about, or families. It's ridiculous. I don't know any of the commissioners up here who have anything negative to say. We are all on board. We may not agree, and as you see, we don't agree. You have an individual here who wants to raise taxes. My other colleagues are very, very cognizant of not doing that. You have a commissioner who basically wants to support a commission, a committee. And I'll be honest, the reason why I kind of thought it through again was last time we talked about having some type of response. That's why we tabled it for 2 weeks. There was nothing that had changed. And as I feel, I'm glad we have a city planner because I think that's going to be crucial in moving Millville forward. Is it an investment? It is. Those individuals on the commission, as we open new committees, perhaps that they could apply for them and be part of it. Volunteerism is an integral part of this commission and the future of this city. We proved it with the RVC that we had and had 30 people come out with a lot of other individuals who want to come out and be involved in it. And I'm grateful, happy, excited, etc. for the future of the city. Concerning the police department, you can't have it both ways. Angela, I believe you talked about looking at shot spotters. Well, shot spotters costs money. Mary, and again, my heart goes out to any individual who's at the point of where am I going to get the funding. And maybe we could look for something to help those individuals who are in need. And I don't know that yet, but we could pursue to look at that. But if we're not going to have the individual officers on the street to write the tickets, because there's 4 or 5 officers circulating around, when they pull somebody in, they have to take the time to write out the reports, which means that officer's not on the street. Unless we get the numbers to where we were, I don't know how we're going to write those tickets. And I agree with you 100%. If people are breaking the law, then we need to write the tickets to generate revenue. It's not easy sitting up here, and it's sometimes easy to sit from your perspective and pass judgment. We all work hard here. We wouldn't be here if we didn't, and we won't always agree. But I'm pretty secure in saying the fact that this commission has Millville at the apex of what they want to see happen for the future of the city. I mean, I don't know what to say at this point, but I thank you for you individuals coming up. I want you to keep doing that. Give us the opportunity to respond and have open ears and listen to what we're saying as well. With that, I thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Udalvis.
In response to many of this evening's discussions, I would simply like to reiterate that throughout this process, which local government is in fact a process, we provide our feedback, we weigh our evidence individually, we evaluate that evidence, and we make our decisions based on what it is that we see and how we perceive those pieces of evidence. And simply to reiterate, I demonstrate respect for my fellow commissioners, and they demonstrate equal respect toward me as well. In terms of respect, that is simply not an issue with this commission, and it's one in which it's a comfortable enough environment that I can make those decisions and I can raise those questions, understanding that my comments are heard, my feedback is evaluated as well, and you make your decisions based on that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Vice Mayor?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Pertaining to what Mr. Barrett said earlier, Commissioner Udalvis hit it right on the head. I think one of the first things that we discussed as a group, as a team, is that we will respect each other's vote, or decisions, or their comments. That was talked about months ago. The one thing that people just don't like is when your city commissioners sit up here and argue with each other, disrespect each other, calling each other's names. You will not get that from this administration at all. Talk about, a woman. Hey, I served with the First Lady, Vicki Marshall, the first woman elected to this commission. 1989. Outstanding individual, had her own mind. She didn't always agree. We didn't always agree, but we always respect each other. We will do that. So, when you make a comment, you better know where you're coming from. You better know us as people. As people. A lot of us have done a lot in this city over the years, not just sitting here. We, too, were volunteers. We, too, are volunteers now on a lot of programs. This isn't just the only thing that we do. We are involved in this community. We care about this community, and we'll continue working for this community. We're all in this together. We encourage the public to come here and speak what concerns you. That's healthy. That is important. But we may not agree. We may not agree, but we're going to treat you with respect. With respect. In turn, we ask the same thing. Is that respect? It keeps coming back. So, you know, I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. A lot of good things happened tonight. Positive things were happening in this city. Let's keep talking about the positive things, not the negative things. That's what's happened in the past. Keep talking about the positive things. Thanks, Mayor.
You're welcome. I'd like to thank every commissioner up here for saying what you had to say from your heart. I'm very proud to be part of this group. I'm part of the team that we have within the city of Millville. No one here is put a mouthpiece on them or shut up because we don't want to hear you. So I commend you, Commissioner Udalvis, for saying what you said, because we do all respect each other here, and we're doing what's right for the best of the city. I've said this many times. In another month, I'll be married 36 years, and my wife and I don't agree all the time. How many of you here can say that? We don't agree all the time. But we come up with a solution, and that's what the goal of this commission is to come up with solutions, not for us, but for the city of Millville, for those of you who voted us into this office. So I'm proud of every one of you commissioners. I'm proud to sit here as your mayor, and we will continue to move this city forward, whether people are with us or not. We will still continue to what's right. So with that, can we now move on?
A resolution authorizing a closed session for the following matter: 109 East Main Street, dangerous structure under potential litigation.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Motion carries.
We will go into closed session, and we'll be back, hopefully soon. Hey, Jim? Jim? You want that engineer?
I hope my passion. Joe. Mike.
Stevie, what do we need? A motion to adjourn?
Alrighty.
All right, so we'll go through the, all right, we're all back.
Okay, so we have a resolution which has been added to this agenda tonight, authorizing an emergency demolition of 109 East Main Street, and also for the city to, which we intends to authorize the city solicitor to obtain an order as soon as possible from the court to demolish the unsafe structure and pursue the owner for the costs incurred to the city.
Mr. Mayor, move to adopt this resolution.
Second the motion.
Any comments? Roll call.
Commissioner Pepitone?
Yes.
Commissioner Parent?
Yes.
Commissioner Udalvis?
Yes.
Commissioner Cooper?
Yes.
Mayor Santiago?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Okay, so we just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion for meeting to be
So
adjourned.
moved.
Yes.
Second.
Any comments?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.